So, good morning everyone. Welcome from Quarantine Central. Welcome. My name is Richard. If you don't remember me, I am very, very old. That's better. How are we guys all doing today? So, welcome to my second instalment. More to come, if need be. Now, what I'd like to do is I'd like everyone to remember that this is essentially aimed at graduates, apprentices coming up for their EPAs, newly qualified stylists, and perhaps some stylists that are returning back to work and need to build some confidence. But I do hope that my way of looking at things gives you a little bit of a different perspective on some of the things that you've been doing. So thank you very, very much for letting me share. I do hope that I can help someone out there because I do love being part of this Passion for Hair family. It's an amazing network of talent, information and inspiration that Debbie and Daniel have created here. Now, here's a thought for you. Morning, Deanna. Here's a thought for you. Yesterday, I got a friend request and a new follower on Instagram. That makes two. I've got 2 followers on Instagram. So I decided to check out the profile of this fashion designer. I thought, someone famous has recognised me and wants to follow me. Nope, it was just a barber. But then I corrected myself and I thought, that's really, really cool how he sees himself. He's elevated himself to be a fashion designer, not just a hair designer, a fashion designer. So I want to ask you guys, have you elevated yourself yet? Have you taken this time away from the salon to renew, reinvigor, re-establish your approach to your hairdressing or to yourself? We've got this opportunity to go back in and be something a little bit different if we want to, haven't we? So what I'd like to do is I would like to recap on the last session, if I may. My first point last time was, what is the definition of a great haircut? For me, it's about, it looks like she wanted it to be, but she needs to be able to manage it for the life of that haircut. So what is the life of the haircut, Richard? I'll tell you, it's what we give it. Surely, we're in charge of our haircut. It might be 4 weeks for a short little crop. It may be 12 weeks for a long, big, bouncy blow dry sort of client. But the key here is that she can manage it for those 12 weeks or those 4 weeks. She knows that it's going to last that length of time, and she's got the right products, the right tools and the right little tips of the trade to help her maintain that for that life of that haircut. My second point from last time was, it all starts with the consultation. What is the consultation? Again, for me, it's the difference between a great haircut and the right haircut. I want to make that real distinction between those two. It's the difference between getting the right haircut and losing the client. It doesn't matter how technically good that haircut was that you created. If it wasn't quite as she asked it to be, it wasn't the right haircut, you could be losing that client. It's our core service. The consultation is our core service. It's our superpower. It's the real skill that we possess. Now, I heard something the other day that really, really impacted on me. I've been watching a fair bit of Robert Cromians just recently. I hope you guys have been checking in. Andy King put me onto him. I just love the guy. What a character. I just love it. I'm going to need a big hat and some big glasses. I just look like Elton John though. He did some research. Now, I'm sure it's not his research because I'm sure I've heard Debbie say this before, and I'm sure I've heard this from a 365 source many years ago, back in the day. Stylists lose 60% of their new clients on the 3rd appointment. What? Oh my God, what? Can you believe that? Why? Why is that? Well, for me, it would be a reduced perceived interest that we have in that client. There's no big wow, like we did when she first arrived, the handshake, the introduction by name. There's a reduced consultation time. There's no check on her product situation. How's she getting on with it? There's no interest in her home maintenance anymore. Has she brought a new style for you to look at just recently? Now, I promise you, and anyone that works closely with me will vouch for me, I promise you, I ask every single client, every single time, how they're getting on with their hair at home. And some of my clients have been with me for 20, 25, some 30 years plus. I told you I was old. It might be a little pip of a question. So, Helen, remind me how you're blow drying it at the moment. Mary, remind me what sort of products you're playing with at the moment. But I guarantee you I ask every single time. Now, Richard's dementia tip for today. Now, this is for us oldies that can't remember why we go into the room next door. What did I come in here for? Oh, I can't remember. Or you youngsters, you graduate stylists, you trainees that are coming through to your EPA. What I'd like you to do every single morning now is I want you to look on your clients' histories of all of your clients on your day sheet, and I want you to look back and I want you to check when they bought some product 2-3 sessions ago, and I want you to write those products on your day sheet, because when you're face-to-face, sit down, face-to-face consultation, masks at the ready, I want you to say to them, how are you getting on with that mousse that you got a couple of visits ago? Because if we don't, she may run out. If she runs out, she may be in Superdrug buying supermarket dog wash special, and we won't know. Or she may have tried it once or twice and not got on with it. And then she won't use it again, which then means she won't buy anything from you ever again, because she lost the confidence in that product. Now, we know that 90% of anyone that doesn't get on with one of our products is about the use. It's how they used it, when they used it, how much they used. So you need to be checking. So Richard's dementia tip for today is check on your clients' histories. Now, pictures will get you a great haircut. Photographs will get you the right haircut. Now, who? Please tell me, who has created a Pinterest board for their men's hair on their salon iPad or on their phone? I wonder. Let's have a quick look at some of the photographs that I used last time. I can't click on the button. Where's the presentation deck? Ah, here we go. Oh, here we go. So we have Brad Pitt. Why doesn't my mouse work? Here we go. We have some haircuts that I picked. Sickeningly good looking Zach. Then we have the wonderful Johnny Depp. And then we have a wonky Horseshoe section. So tell me, who has a Pinterest board for their ladies' haircuts? Have you got Pinterest boards for fringes? Have you got Pinterest boards for your colours, your short hair, your bobs? Imagine having a Pinterest board of balayage that you can just flick and slide across, saying, so you'd like this result, but flick across with these tonal effects. How cool is that? All of the different highlighting techniques, whether it's naturalizing, whether it's baby lights. How do you explain baby lights? With a photograph, of course. It gets you the right haircut. And what I've done is I've seen a few of you use them on your social media. And do you know what? It makes me so, so happy when you see that. When you share something and you see that people have taken it on board and they're using it in their own little way, it makes you feel so, so good. And that's amazing, and how it is part of what we do here. My next thing is the balance of a man's haircut can be created by the sections that we take. So why is a man's haircut, unbalanced? And I apologise if there are some more barbers on there than there were last time, but generally the high street barber tends to have unbalanced haircuts. The ones that I tend to repair are generally unbalanced, and I actually have to do very little to rebalance them up. So they're too short at the crown. Why are they too short at the crown, Richard? Well, a barber stands there, let me just adjust the camera, and they will scissor over comb here. They will work from behind like that. It generally means that they have no perception of what's going on to the silhouette that we want to create. The haircut is unbalanced because it's too short at the sides. Why is it too short at the sides, Richard? I'll tell you. It's because generally they use the clippers too short a guard, too low down, with no guideline to go for. If our favourite little Tommy comes down south east to Essex, he's going to have a destination in mind. He's not going to just jump in his car and head southeast. He'll end up in Basildon. We don't want that. So we're going to put a guideline in. We're going to work to a guideline. The third reason the barber's haircut generally is unbalanced is because it's too heavy on top. It's too long. Why is it too heavy on top? Because you cut it too short at the sides and the crown. And if I took the top, the length I really wanted it, the guy will feel seriously, seriously scalped. And now we have my favourite topic of the day, the horseshoe section, which is actually really difficult to say. So I'm going to overly pronunciate it to make sure. If you want to create shape, if you want to create taper, if you want to build up some weight, if you want to reduce the weight, then it's a multifunctional technique that we can use. Now, if you remember some of the rules or some of the things that I put in place from last time, the shape of the horseshoe determines the shape of the haircut. How high or low you place that will determine how short the haircut is. Balance is getting both right on the head that you're working on, not the hair. It's the head that you're working on. So all this can be transferred to a lady's haircut, surely. But why would we? Well, ladies want short hair. They want shape. And if they want short hair, they're going to want taper. And they're going to want a balanced haircut, because balance and taper is flattering. Now, I had the privilege of working with or in with Stephen Way on, I believe it was BB1 at 365 many years ago. I think it was actually about 25 years ago, 26 years ago. And he did a whole session on face shapes. And everything he said has stuck with me. All about the taper. All about that V shape that you create there visually. Look what it does. It hits its cheekbones. If I had some, it would hit them. And look what it also does is it loses this part. So by creating taper, you hit the cheekbones and you go to the mouth. Now, one of the weirdest but the most true things I found from him, he said that people, ladies with heavy set jawlines, shouldn't wear big earrings because it draws the attention here, not here. That cheekbone, from mouth to cheekbone, is a V. Look where it ends up. It's here. It's way here. That's the flattering. That's balance for you. That's taper. Now, I like clean, sharp lines. I like clean sections. points. I like short point to short point. I like guidelines. I like shape, and I like balance. Balance is everything for me. So let's put that into practice here. We're going to take 4 ladies' haircuts, and we're going to look at the horseshoe section for each one of these. So let me just get down to, first one is the pixie. Here we have, move this in a bit closer. Here we have the horseshoe section for the pixie haircut. Let's look at the photograph and look at it from a client's point of view. Do you remember what we said in the consultation? Let's describe that haircut, that photograph, so that a client knows exactly what they're seeing in that photograph. There's no weight. It's very, very flat at the sides. It's got quite a messy crown, and it's got a really, really long sweeping front. Do you realise that if you have that sweeping front, can you see how low the parting is? Clients won't see that. How many times you've had a client with almost a centre parting going, can I have one of those sweepy things? No, you can't. Not without moving your parting, madam. So here we have the horseshoe section for the pixie. It's quite high up. It's way beyond the recession area. Why? Because I want no weight through the sides there. If I bring my horseshoe section down, can you see what will happen by my hand? We will start to build up weight. We would turn this there. The other thing I would do with this haircut is I wouldn't put any section or block graduation in. I would be working with a 90-degree taper on this. Why? Because I don't want any weight. I don't want any shape coming out there, do I? I want it there. And I would start at the top of the ear. Why would I start at the top of the ear? Because it's the shortest point where my hairline matches my horseshoe section, which means I have the cleanest amount of hair to get that angle right straight away. If I start here, how short do I take that? Even worse, if I've taken that first section at the top of the ear like we do, and we start down here. How short? What angle? It's a guess. That's my point most of the time. I ask that question all the time. How long do you leave it? How short do you take it? That angle there gives me exactly perfect length for this particular haircut. Let's look at the second one. The bowl. What a wonderful haircut. I believe this is from Luigi. I'm hoping that Jude have had something to do with that. I'm not overly keen on the makeup, but what a beautiful colour and what a beautiful haircut. Just got to grab a quick slurp and he's back. So here we have the bowl. We have the horseshoe based on that bowl. Why is it so low? If we'd have taken it up too high, if I bring it up too high, I would have to pull that hair all the way down to guess where my guideline will be, my first cutting point. If I'm going to use this one, I'm going to follow that almost directly. Let's take my comb. If I pull this out, let me just turn that round so hopefully you can see this. When I take that section, my comb follows that guide. My comb lays over the top of my finger, and now my comb and my hand is exactly the same as this. If it was up here, I would have to have guessed that. So now I can just follow this beautifully round, and I've got my bowl section first in, and then I can decide how short I want to go through underneath. Haircut number 3. Let's look at the horseshoe section on this one. Horseshoe section number 3 is the messy crop. Now we can see that it's got quite a low, heavy weight around the occipital bone. So the section is going to drop down lower round the occipital bone so that I can just follow that, just sit here, and I've already got that weight that I will now build up from. The weight from the temple area down onto that occipital bone, the section does it for me. Block graduate all the way round and then get rid of all the rest of the underneath hair. Then we can decide on how heavy the top will come down. Haircut number 3, horseshoe section number 3. And then we have, wait for it, the amazing pink. God, I love this woman. Big, 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 big crush. Sings, she's an acrobat. I saw her at the O2 and she was hanging up by her ankles doing Cirque du Soleil singing Welcome to the Funhouse. Oh my God, I love this woman. Okay, horseshoe section for this one. Can you see when you're looking at that photograph? Again, there is no weight here, but there is a little tip of weight at the top there before it's disconnected. So therefore we would use a higher guideline, very similar to the pixie, but I would actually put my guideline in first, my block graduation, very, very close to the horseshoe section, follow that round, and then just clip us straight up like we did last time. And there we have your 4 haircuts. The other thing I would like to just think, I haven't got a photograph of this one, but who remembers the beret from Vidal Sassoon? The beret was an asymmetric bowl. Now Sassoon's technique would have been to start here, and they would have worked round, over directing each section to gradually build up the weight as they go, and pull it to here, and then by the time you got here, you would be building up that weight to create that asymmetric line. Surely we could use the horseshoe section, but just a wonky one. We could have an asymmetric horseshoe section, and then we would just follow it round horizontally, giving ourselves a guideline to then 90 degree in, or clip it down and work that way up, and then gradually bring everything down onto that as we work our way round. It's just a lovely idea for me. So let's do a haircut. We're going to work on some of the ideas that we've used and we discussed over the last last session and this session. We're going to work with the horseshoe section. We're going to work with our block graduation. We're going to do some horizontal layering as we bring the top down. And of course, we're going to do some clipper work. I thought I'd throw in something a little bit new on top of that, as well as perhaps getting some product talk going. What I'd like to do is I'm going to throw in a little disconnection or two, and inspired by Mr. Andy King, we're going to be using either the chopstick or the carving comb, and we're going to work with the razor in on the disconnection. I hope I don't let you down on this one, Andy. And then if we get time, I'm going to work with a little twist technique that we are going to use to maintain the weight as we pull through the sides. The problem with working with a block graduation is that it gives you very, very little room to maneuver. So once I've taken that really, really short, it doesn't allow me to maintain any extra length and softness there. So if I know that I want length and softness through the front, I will block graduate, and then I will stop at the top of the ear and then work that forward or bring it back to maintain some of that there. So I need to move my camera. I think what we're going to do is we're going to work with a soft bowl shape, and then we're going to disconnect the top, and then if we have time, we're going to work the clippers through and change that underneath, and then if we get any more time at the end, then we'll really smash it up through the top there, hopefully using more and more and more of Andy's razor. So let me just adjust this camera. So, can everyone see that? Is that nice and clear? Before I start, have I missed any real questions? Because I've been waffling away. Have we got any questions leading up to this point? Don't know if I have. Okay. Righty-ho. So, and on the camera, this is back to front, which is really, really weird. So, let's just damp this down a little. So, we're going to be working on this bowl shape. I'm going to start at the sides as usual. I find it much, much easier to get my balance right when I'm working through from the side. My question, oh dear, squeaky. My question always is when we're working here, particularly if people are going to start, let's say with a graduated bowl, for example. The first thing they're taught is to section from the top of the ear all the way round. You're going to take that centre section, you're going to pull it out. My question always is, how long or short are you going to leave that? What angle are you going to pull that at? It's a guess, isn't it? Surely. I don't like guessing. I want my graduate to have as many short point as they can, as many guidelines to achieve the right haircut. I want them to be able to see where they're going with it. By putting in the block graduation around and then having a length there, I can then control the angle based on that guideline that I've given myself, going down in there. It's really wonderful watching all the things on Instagram when they end up with a brand new block and they just pull it straight out, and it's almost like magic. They know exactly what length to pull it and just to cut it. Well, that's brilliant on a block that has got loads of length there. But if we have a client who has a predetermined haircut with a predetermined length, it's not quite so easy to work out the angle when you're a graduate stylist. By putting in a guideline here, we then have a point of reference to work through to our taper. I hope that makes sense. So, let's start with some block graduation. I'm not going to block graduate the other side. I'm going to work round so that we can work hopefully with this twist technique on the other side. Now, block graduation. You gather up everything from underneath. Can you see the angle that I'm pulling that at? That's at 45 degrees, which means that I'm going to have a really, really nice guideline of not just one line. If we take a slither section, that's fine. But it doesn't give us anywhere near as much of a guideline to then start working our underneath hair from. So we are going to work with this block graduation. Nice and controlled. Sitting just on the top of the ear there, as you can see there. Now if I lift this out, I should have WD-40 the stand. If I pull this out, can you see, if you zoom in, I don't know if you can see that, I don't know if I can come back this way actually. Can you see that point, that angle there? That now gives me the right correct angle to work when I'm starting to work with my vertical layering on that underneath there. Next section. Pull everything up. We should have some reference points now. We have the guide from the previous haircut, and my comb has followed the horseshoe section on the way round. As I drop that out, as I'm working here, as I pull this out, I hope that you can see that up against my hand, I now have a good Am I back from everyone else, or? Oh dear. Okay. I'm hoping that most people are back. Fantastic. If it's my internet at home, I do apologise. Well, as I was saying, if you guys missed it, I wouldn't normally go all the way round one way on my block graduation. I would always come round to just in front, like just almost middle. I'd like to leave myself about an inch there, so that as I come round, I've got there. I would then come round this way, and then I've got a meeting point that I can just ensure that I'm nice and balanced all the way round. But because I want to change one side, I am going to work all the way round. So as we come up, and again, if I come to here, let's move that out just a fraction. My comb follows that horseshoe. So as the comb goes in, let's just watch. My finger's already there. So I'm going to pull that underneath. My hand is there. I'm just going to control that and pull that round. My comb is following this section, this guideline. So that as I come round, I know that I'm following that, whether I work this way or whether I work that way. I'm going to just skip that out. Leave that bit out for the moment. So we're going to just block graduate, oh, not the laptop, all the way round from there. So that now gives me a really, really nice guideline to now start working any vertically layering that I'm going to do. So here we go. What I'll do is I'll reverse my hand in a minute so you can actually see. In fact, I'll do that now. I don't normally work this way. It's much easier for this way. So let's see if I do that. Aha! You should be able to see the angle. So comb in, stop, finger underneath, the two come together. Can you see now I have short point to short point, which we would then use nice and simply. And from now, a graduate stylist now has two reference points, two guidelines to work to. The original section and the connection that the block graduation gives to make it an indicator. Here we go. Comb in, out, together. You can see the guideline, scissors in, nice and sharp there. That works really, really nicely. Half old, half new. Two reference points, two guidelines now. Fingers on the back of the head, palm to palm. As I come out, the minute I lose and see that guideline there, I should be able to see my guideline from the previous one, and off we go. Turning, and I always say to the guys, you shuffle. Every single section, every day we're shuffling. I'm hoping that Charlie and Deanna and Lucy are all singing that right now. As we come through, let's just double check on that one. If you move your sections around, you will find that you will get a build-up of weight, which we're not after in this particular haircut. So as I come round, comb in, fingers underneath. As I come through, my checkpoint is the block graduation. My guideline will follow that on from the previous section. In we go. You see the guideline at the very, very top. That's where my eyes go to first. All the way round. There. My guideline is direct. Sorry about that. Technical. Can everyone see and hear? I think it is my my broadband, guys. I do believe that broadband in Essex isn't what it's cracked up to be. So I do apologise. Hello everyone. Okay, so if you didn't see, I need to turn this round and I need to drop that back down again because you don't want to see me, you want to see the block. So we have basically worked all the way round. We've got quite a nice shape created there already, which we can then decide how short we're going to go by clipping and blending into them clippers. Let's just very, very quickly work around the other side. I will turn this way so that you can see as I work this way. So as I come through, there. If you decide, can you see the problem when you're working this way? This is why I don't like working this way. But you can get over it by tipping your client's head down to allow you a little bit more room. As I always say to the graduates, if you're uncomfortable, that's quite uncomfortable for me. If I'm uncomfortable, I'm liable to change and get comfortable. Can you see the angle of my hand has now changed? For me to stay like this is quite uncomfortable. So graduates, let's remember to move our clients down so that they're in the position that we need them to be for us. So as we come through, pull it out, you can see guideline to guideline. We're going to have to work this way. In fact, I'm going to turn you around so you can see the other way. That worked better. Silly me. Right, here we go. We're going to work that way. So, as we're working through there, half old, half new, section, comb stops, fingers behind the comb, pull it out. The minute you hit to your block graduation, you should see the guideline and you should see the reference point at the nape. Let's turn that head round. 50-50, half old, half new. There we go again. Next one. There. We have a little bit to work on there. Half old, half new. Comb, fingers, pull out. There. Let's get your comb in, fingers, pull out. There's my block graduation at the top. Off it goes. Let's work that as we're working round. Is that okay angle-wise there, guys? Here we go. Short point to short point. Turn the head as we come round. Almost nothing there. I'm still at 90 degrees to the head. Although I've sort of gathered a few bits of hair there, I'm always at 90 degrees to the head, which gives me my guideline as I come up. I should be checking. Can you see now? There. That was my first reference point as I worked that section now. As we come down, there. Next section. And this will continue all that angle if you want to lose all of that hair on the underneath there. And again, on a real client, not a plastic one, I would be pulling that forward and I would be cleaning up that hairline, making sure that that hairline is all very, very, very clean there all the way through. So we now have a little bit of shape that we can start to see, and we can start to see that we've got this build up here all the way through. Now, the little twist technique. Let's get a water spray. To maintain the length and the softness, if we'd have done block graduation through the top there, the short part of that block graduation would have limited how short or how long and soft I can leave that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that first section beyond that block graduation, and we are going to twist it upwards this way. We'll see you do this around actually now. Because if I cut it this way, if I pull it back, which I can do, I'm going to lose that reference point on that top. So we would just maintain that weight and pull that up, which then means that that has moved over directed and kept the length there. Let's get rid of that for a second. So we are going to comb that up, twist that back so that the length stays, but the top will stay the same length as the guideline. So let's pull that out. You're going to then twist that up. My finger hasn't moved at the top, which means it stays shorter, but it does mean that the bit of hair on the underneath has stayed longer. I don't know if you can start to see that now. So the next section, let's get rid of that. Let's pull that section to where it should be. The top part stays. That now twists up. And then maintain that length. Can you now start to see the shape that you've now created? That lovely, lovely scoop, which means I've maintained that length, but I've still got that guideline based on that block graduation now. A little tiny little twist. Take the section. Let's see if I can get that a better position. So that section, and what we're going to do is we're going to hold that the same, and you're going to twist that up until you can see that. You're going to just take that all off, but you've maintained all of that length. And if I pull that out, you can see you've got this beautiful white scoop, which means that you've maintained all of that length whilst keeping the short shape that you want. Oh, wrong side. Back to front in the mirror. There. So you've now got that little bit longer length, so this side compared to that side. It's a really lovely little easy technique. You just twist away from the area that you want the length to maintain. Again, let's move that back out again. I put my fingers in, I'm going to maintain the movement, like the stability at the top. I'm going to just turn that round. So I've kept the block graduation length, but the underneath gradually gets longer. And as you can see, if I cross-check that, it all blends really, really nicely all the way through up the top there. Okay, let's get this in a little bit shorter and a little bit more tapered. And of course that means the clippers. We always clip our dry hair. I don't know if you remember from last time, I said to you guys that I generally speed my gents' haircuts up because I do their haircut dry on the underneath clipper in first, then I get them shampooed, get rid of all that clipper hair out of the way. Michelle, no, it was already a previously cut bob, so that I had a reference point there already. I think I made the point when you watch things on Instagram and you have superstar stylists, and they're all very, very good. Ben Brown, I just love watching him. He's a fantastic hairdresser. He generally starts with blocks. No. almost lost my connection there, sorry. He starts with a much longer hair, so he can pull this out and pick his own length, which then, when it lays down, he then decides on the length. Most clients don't have that availability to us. They've normally got a previous haircut that we've got to work with. So by using this reference point and this reference point gives me almost a perfect line to follow, a perfect angle to follow. I very rarely cut graduated bobs like that. I normally put my line in first and then I work from the hairline, and I work up rather than down. So, okay, so we have a base guideline. We've got a nice, just soft shape, nothing special, nothing sort of stands out when you look at it from a profile wise. So, we're always going to pick our largest guard to match in with our vertical layering. I would say to you, it's never a waste of time going in with your number 8 and just seeing what comes off. Tip your client head forward. Now remember, you're standing in front of you and you are rolling the clipper out towards your chin. It's a rolling action. If you're on stage at Pro Hair Live, it's rocking. Just rock it. Up, nice C shape. You'll hear very, like many different variations, but it's generally you roll the clippers out. That's the action. I don't want to be clippering over there because I have no control. So I'm going to move around the head as I clipper. I'm watching the blade, not the guard, and I'm also watching where I want that blend to be. So if I tip that blade down, I'm going to go in very slowly and then roll out towards me. Very little has come off. But what it has done is given me a nice reference point to show me how short I can possibly take it. So let's get that number 8 going. So even I'm speeding up, the process is still the same. It's still out slowly. You don't ever go in clippering where you think. You always start from the bottom. Daisy, slowly. I love it. Thank you. Was that too fast? I love it. So we're going to go from an 8 to a 7. I never feel that it's a waste of time going down the guards. It gives me precision. It gives me immediate response rather than going in too short, a bit quicker, and then having to work and blend it out afterwards. So this is a 7. In slowly. You can leave the clippers there all day long. There's nothing cutting. So take your time with the clippers, guys. Just roll it out nice and slow. Nice and slowly. And I have to turn it. I won't come round. Let's turn that round a little bit so you guys can still see. Nice and slowly. Almost nothing coming off of that. So let's just step it up a little bit one more time. Now generally when you're working with your guards, you work to the previous guard. You don't work to the guideline with continually shorter guard, because otherwise you lose your shape, you lose your taper. So let's go down to a 6, and then I'm going to edge in with a 4. I don't actually want to take it too short today. So there's my 6. My 6 is doing nothing. So let's go in with a 4. Always seem to have a comb in my hand. It just gives me some stability and holds my guideline in. Whether it actually does anything, I'm not actually sure, but it makes me feel better. So a number 4, so there's going to be a bit more coming off here. So I'm going to need to come out a little bit sooner. And then just work my way up. So I will work that same section until I feel that I've got the right shape appearing now. So does everyone use thinning scissors when they're working? Do you use them in particular techniques, particular areas of the hair? I was always told when I first started hairdressing that people that use their thinning scissors to scissor over comb are cheating, or they can't scissor over comb properly. I like them because they give me a different effect. They create softness. Can you see how sharply I'm angling that out now to give me that profile shape that I'm after? That's the shape that I'm after. Now, clipping through the sides, you probably find that you won't get a huge amount off from there, and you have to go in and out really, really quickly. And it's almost impossible on the block because the ears don't move. So let's use this number 4. Let's see if I can get in there. And let's work to the other side. Just briefly, I'm going to leave that one side asymmetric there. Just for the hell of it. Okay. Another tip of the day. Has anyone else got one of these barber combs? Can you see how thin that is? The wonderful thing about scissor over combing is that when you're using a normal comb, you only have this much hair to see in any one space. And can you see how it moves with the comb? When you suddenly have a barber comb, when you place the comb in and pull it out, you will be able to see any little nook, any little dip that you will be able to blend out. And the secret is, if Lucy, you've got your mantra going. It goes in, you get the right angle, you pull out. You put it in, get the right angle, and you come out until you've got the hair that needs to go. So basically, so in, out, angle, and coincidentally, can you see that that is the same shape and the same angle that I roll the clippers out as I'm working? Can you see in, out, shake it all about, in, out, in, angle, out, in, angle, out, in, angle, out. It will show you on a much bigger scale where you need to cut, what you need to cut. And I love just taking the ends off of everything with the thinning scissors for a much softer finish, particularly on really, really fine hair. These are also really, really cool when you're clipper over comb. So if you're going to clipper over comb, the comb goes in, you'll be able to see. Can you see how much of that hair that I can see? And I'm holding the angle that I want as that comes out. The combs are really, really reasonable, and if you're going to be working on a lot of shape, a lot of short hair, you'll find those combs are absolutely amazing. Kaylee, I will find out for you. I've just ordered some from a website. I'll type that in as soon as I finish. Remind me at the end. It's an amazing thing. And it's really, really easy to use. The fact that it's so thin, you can get right into the hairlines, and it gives you so much space and so much area. Yeah, I mean, this one is like, I don't know if I want to bend this up too much, but it is quite flexible. It's really, really nice. Okay, so shall we move on to the next part? Let's drop all these lovely clips out and let's damp that hair down a little. So when we're talking about doing these sort of haircuts, I use a lot of products when I'm actually cutting. So as Andy was saying the other day when he was working with his razors, the primer is a fantastic product, Primer by Sensus. I've also found that using the beautifying Elixir leave-in conditioner gives me a real nice ability to work with the hair. If I'm working with gents, a little bit of the Euphora Sculpture, which is what I call my desert island product. If I'm only allowed one product ever, it's this one. But I have to say, despite it being really, really strong, because of the way I cut my gents' hair, like short on the underneath clipper, then re-shampooed, I can put a little tiny bit of this in and start to work. I love the fact that I've got control over each section while I'm working, and then a little bit of primer back over the top to revitalise this, and then I'm good to blow dry it in. It's a fantastic product. So, I'll make that a little bit wetter. So what we're going to do is we are going to work with Andy's comb. In fact, I don't need a comb because it has a comb. And we are going to take, now normally, when I'm using scissors, I would normally take 1 centimetre sections, exactly the same horseshoe section, and drop it down onto my guideline. Because we're going to be razoring and disconnecting, I'm going to take a slightly bigger section because I can, because I'm using a razor. So let's just tighten this up a fraction. So let's drop that down. Let's work our way all the way round. This thing is just mad. The fact that you've got a comb all rolled into the tool. It's a fantastic idea. Okay, so now, whereas we normally start at the sides with our block graduation, we're actually now going to start at the back. Why do we start at the back, Richard? Well, I want to maintain the disconnection through the sides, but I actually want to keep it connected in at the back. So we are going to pull this down, and then we give it a lovely little spin, and then we can take off everything in an incredible amount of speed. And then you don't do that, and then you can comb that down, and you can see that you're starting to build up that weight really, really strongly, very, very quickly. As we move around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the length that I want to keep my bowl set shape. So as I come round, let me comb this round a little bit more so you can see that a bit better. As I'm going to come round, I'm going to pick the length, and I'm going to pick about 1.5 centimetres, half inch beyond the guideline that I had. So, what a wonderful tool. And then you can just pick up, and then a little bit that you've missed, work through. And it starts to build up some softness there. Comb it down. For a bit of fun, we're going to use the chopstick on the other side, just for some fun. I just love the fact that I can just go in and just pick out pieces afterwards with this. And there's no blood. Now, to soften the disconnection, what we're going to now do is we're now going to pull up the hair at 90 degrees to the head. And then we are going to just touch in with the big side of the carving comb and pull out the hair that we want. Now, because we're now going to texturize on the level of the guideline, as you comb that through, you will get a really nice blend, but you will have built up weight that you won't normally have built up by connecting everything in. So, again, 90 degrees out. And then we're going to use the closed side. Thank you, Andy. And then you're going to go just in and touch on the length of the guideline that I can see underneath, and then just comb that out. And that sits really, really lovely. As I'm working my way round, I'm going to pick my length. And it's such a nice soft way of working. If you're worried about a razor, these are just spot on. Let's swap and have a little play with the chopstick. So again, same idea. We're going to pick our length, and then we're going to use the chopstick just to cut through much quicker. Holy moly! And because I've got a slight asymmetric on here, I'm going to just drop this down just a little bit heavier onto the guideline that we've got. So let's build up a little bit of weight in there. Now, the same thing holds true this side. I'm going to take that section that I've just cut, I'm going to lift it at 90 degrees, I'm going to see my guideline through there, and then I'm going to just pencil carve on that guideline. No blood on my fingers, and as I pull out, I can create what softness I want in there. This actually, when you're pencil carving, it's a much more controllable way of doing it. With the carving comb, it's very much one touch and it's gone. As we come through, lift at 90 degrees, see where your guideline is there, and then pencil carve onto that. By doing that, you have connected the disconnection into the underneath without it being there quite as definitely. So let's take the next section. All the way round. Let's get rid of all of that up there. Let's twist that out of the way. Has everyone got the H.H. Simerson section clips? I love them. I used to use the normal ones, and these just have so much more twang, so much more control to them. So again, what we're going to do is going to pull it out. It's going to be out at sort of 45 degrees here, like that angle there, because we want to be able to maintain all of that length. And then I'm just going to come in with the chopstick, and I'm going to just go straight over the top of that. This is sort of going to keep it relatively connected, but in a really, really beautiful, soft way there. As we turn round, this is where the disconnection starts. And again, any little bit, I've got control. Don't have to think about it, it's lovely. Really, really nice. As we drop that down, I'm going to keep a bit of length there now. So most people tend to pull outwise. You're much better off pulling down. Let me just turn the block so you can see what I mean by that. So graduates, when you want to maintain length, if you pull down, can you see where the hair is here? As I get there, I stop. Now I'm going to hold that now. Now I can move my fingertips there and bring it down. If I try to put it out, I've got less control. I can't visually see exactly where it's going to be. As I drop that, it's going to just drop as it falls. Let's work in the natural fall wherever possible, guys. So as we work this through, I'm going to pull this out, down. Can you see I've now lost that guideline? Now that stays, and I move that, and then I'm going to come in behind my hands and just carve wherever I want to. Just maintain that. Now to soften that disconnection again, we're going to make sure that we only take the next top section, pull it back out at 90 degrees, look through where your guideline is, and then you can pencil carve into that. And that's how much I've just taken out of there. I'm going to get a lovely softness even though it's completely and utterly disconnected. Again through the front, perhaps a little bit less heavy-handed, which is where the pencil carving comes in. I want to just where my guideline is. I can see my guideline through the hair, and that's where I'm going to get this really, really lovely blend, even though it's a disconnection. Let's work with the carving comb on the next section. When I saw Andy use this at Pro Hair Live, I was like, I want one of those. We used a razor at the Gianni Scamacci thing and that we did, which was an amazing, amazing day. If you guys are not remotely booked, right, can you see the angle has changed? So let's just do that again, talking too much. As I'm coming through, where my finger stops, where I get to the existing guideline, now I'm going to just drop my hand down so that I can maintain all that length, and then I can just follow in with the comb. Can you hear me? Are we back? Thank you for your patience. Okay, so if I turn that round, hopefully you can start to see just the softness that you're creating, even though you're building up a nice sort of bowl shape. So the last section we're going to do, let's just damp that down a little bit more. Now I've obviously left the top, or this side, a little bit longer. So it makes sense, doesn't it, to say that this haircut is going to have a little bit more of an asymmetric sort of feel towards the front now. So I'm now going to just comb everything out based on sort of a natural fall in that direction now. And let's just sort of see how that's going to sit. There's not a lot to come off this side. So let's just turn that round. We're going to have some fun with the other side of the comb. Andy, just tell everyone what that one's called, because this one is much more instant, much more chopstick-like with the texture. And again, let's just disconnect that, make sure that that's sitting nicely on there. Let's just take that off. And you see as we drop that down, and then we're going to start to pull everything over to this side now, all the way down. Let's just turn that block around so you can see that angle there. Here we go. And then over the top of my fingers, let's just get rid of it. There's a little piece in there. It's a wonderful little carving. So let's turn that round. And with the razor, because it's so efficient, we can take off quite a lot of hair, which then speeds up our restyle process, doesn't it? So again, in its natural fall, don't force it into a direction. Almost if she just shakes her head and lets it fall, we're going to pick up and work with that with no tension whatsoever. So as we come round, I want to disturb the hair as little as possible as I'm working through this now. So lift just slightly, angle my hands down because I want to maintain that weight. Just turn that round a little. So has anyone got any more questions whilst I'm working this last little bit now? Now again, we still need to think about the disconnection, and we want to keep it still nice and soft and nice and blended. So I'm going to still take up some of that, pull it out. I'm going to look through where my original guideline was, and I'm going to just pinch, cut some hair out of that just to maintain a little bit of softness there. A little bit of blend, so as that sits you get that really, really nice blend. And then I will do the same again on the last piece of hair. Okay, so let's get rid of pretty much all of that. And then what we're going to do is we are now going to pull everything over from the other side. Stay still, please, madam. And we're going to bring that all the way over, everything, but make sure that you're maintaining the original angle. You're not suddenly starting to change where you want. So as we come through here, just that softness that we're getting now. And I want everything to come over. Down to my original shape. From there. Okay. What I'm going to visually do now is just look suitability of the client, work out whether that is just a little bit too heavy, it's a little bit too asymmetric. I do believe that is. So I'm going to just strengthen that front up a little bit. So we've moved back to the scissors just because I want to strengthen it up a little bit. I love working with the razor when I want just softness and softness. And obviously really, really choppy texture. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lay that down. Can you now see I've got a short point to short point, even within that. And I want to just take that point off so it's not a point. That will actually limit on how nicely it would sweep back if the client wanted to have that sweep back on any particular day. Now, of course, this hairstyle works both ways. She's got a much heavier, sweepy sort of look here, or she's got a much harder line this side, if that's what she's after. Let's work on that. Obviously, the personalisation from here is all the way down to you and your client and your consultation. So, there we have a bowl based on a very, very low horseshoe section with some disconnection in there, very, very soft, that you won't really see a disconnection because of the texture that we've created. So the only thing I would say is if the client is not going to want to wear it purely as a bowl, she's going to want perhaps more like that pixie haircut on that first one, which we'll go back through. We now want to look at the haircut and see what else we can create to give her some versatility into that haircut. So actually, if she's going to be wearing it, let's say this way, like that pixie haircut, nice and sort of sleek, very, very low, almost invisible parting from here, because we've maintained all of that length. Let's see, we want a little bit of volume and a little bit of height through the top there. So we are going to use that look and we are going to turn that and we are going to work this way. We're not going to work top box, but we could. And any of the graduates want to type in, Deanna, why do I not want to go typical top box? Although I do still have short point to short point, don't I? Let's move my comb out of the way. There's my short point, there's my short point. I could just take that off. My question always is, how do I know that that's the right length? I don't. So what we're going to do is I'm going to just drop this down just a fraction, guys. Can you see that if I get out of the way a little? We're going to work straight through the centre of the haircut again. So that we can see where the weight is and where it isn't. If we're not careful, can you see as I'm lifting that up and all that hair is falling out, I could end up too short. Well done. Nicely done, Deanna. So we also want to maintain the weight here. This is our bowl. And as I work through, if I come around this side, you might be able to see that a bit better. We've got, can you see the fringe just dropped out? The fringe just dropped out. We know that we could get away with getting rid of some of that, whilst maintaining all of that. So on a normal haircut, a normal bowl, I would work straight through the centre. I would use my short point at the crown so that I maintain that weight. I would use my short point at the fringe because I want to maintain that weight and that length. Anything else in between, given the angle that I want, can go. But this isn't a normal bowl. This is an asymmetric bowl. So an asymmetric bowl means we need to take an asymmetric section. So I want to take a diagonal section from the shortest part of my fringe through to my crown. So we are going to work diagonally across the head. I'm going to lift this off and show you this from as though it was from above. So we're going to work diagonally across the head. And the reason that we're going to do that, oh, I've lost it, is because again I want to build up and keep and maintain that weight. If I start through the centre, I've got even balance of weight. So by doing this, I'm working diagonally and pulling everything to that. I'm maintaining the weight where I want it and not keeping it where I don't want it. So again, we're going to start here. I'm going to start at the crown. Comb, fingers underneath, lift, get the angle right. Can you see? Now the important thing is when you comb out, we're going to point cut. And again, next section, comb, stop there, fingers underneath, lift in the angle that you want. Can you see I've got a little tiny bit left there and I've now connected that in there. And that gives me everything I want. I've maintained all of my weight through that bowl. I've just put some texture in through the top and I've maintained that length. Everything now is a case of lifting and pulling and over directing everything to you, but diagonally. So as I pull that up, I'm coming back to my original section. Comb, in, fingers, slide together, point cut through the shape. Let me just show you something from now. As I put the comb in, I'm not running square. My comb is the angle that I want the haircut to be. As I'm pulling that up, my comb is at that angle, which then means my fingers will be at that angle, which then means when I pull it up, everything is at the angle that I wanted it to be. If I come in square, flat to the head and come up, I've then got to manoeuvre myself to get the right angle. The comb is your lever. Let's get the comb in the shape at the right place. My fingers will then follow the comb and I can then just pull it straight up. I've got my guideline, I don't know if you can see that behind me, through there. And I'm pulling this up and over directing it because I want to maintain that length there. I don't think anything will come off of that. No. And we come around to the other side. Now this side, I'm going to use the same technique, but I'm not going to over direct. If I over direct, then I would keep almost an even amount of weight, which is the reason we took a diagonal section. So this section here, as we pull up, we are going to just work on its axis, work at 90 degrees to the head. Up, same line that we follow, but we're working at 90 degrees to the head on each section. Travelling guideline. So I now have visually less weight here. Let's bring that back up again so you can see. We now have visually less weight here than we do here. And yet everything is lovely and connected. Let's just cross-check that through. we should see that we have a slight pickup there. The angle should be slightly up because we over-directed and pulled to that diagonal center section as well. So the only thing I would leave this to be from here now is that we are going to just go mad with a little bit of razoring sort of through here just to work that section there. And this is where the wonderful aspect of the chopstick comes in for me, because it's very much a feeling and I can just play with it, work it on a new section, single section only, a little bit heavier in this side. I didn't go in too heavy on that underneath because I want to maintain my bowl. I want to come up here because I want visually to be able to start to see some shape appearing from the front when we go to almost like that pixie sort of effect on that. And this one really, really heavy on the ends, almost nothing through to the roots now. You can see how much hair I can take out of that. And I've maintained everything that I want to maintain through there. I've maintained my bowl really, really nicely, which doesn't change when the client wears it as a bowl. Short to fringe, heavier sweep. So, how is that for everybody? Have we got some questions based on that haircut? I know that when Daniel did his H.H. Simonson Day, which was fabulous, that was a great seminar, great webinar. He was talking about not using the gloss brush as a blow dry because of the heat on those bristles. Within reason, I tend to use this quite a lot because it really gives me a lovely, lovely smooth finish when I'm wrap drying something down really, really quite nice and straight like that. It just works particularly well for me. So, I hope that you've enjoyed. Have we got any questions that you guys would like to ask? Anything on anything? Closed side or channel side? Thank you, Andy. Is anyone out there? Have I been talking to myself? You're very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Is there any other questions that you guys need to know? What is the brand? Bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, Kaylee, it is a hedgehog, carbon comb. Basically, that one. It's about £3. I can't remember where I got it from, but I got it online. Amazing. Yes, you do, Kaylee. Yes, you do. Sorry to spend your money for you. Doesn't an hour and a half fly? Thank you, Sandy. You're very, very welcome. As I say, guys, anything that you guys want to watch, anything I can help you out with, please get in touch with either Debbie or Daniel or me directly. No problem at all. Thank you very, very much. And... oh, 5 people are typing. Thank you, thank you. Would you sometimes pull all of the hair from the front to the crown? Yes, if I'm going to be working with a top box, Naomi, yes. If I pull that down just a fraction, let's turn around this way. Yes, if I was working with a top box, I could then over direct and pull everything back. The problem is when you're doing that, for me, is I'm not quite sure on the angle, on how much weight I'm taking out when I'm working that way. That's why I tend to prefer working this way. I don't always. I do top box aspect to it, but by over-directing and pulling back towards me, I don't feel I have quite the amount of control as I do when I'm working this way. I can control this angle perfectly, and it also means that I maintain my fringe perfectly. I hope that is the answer that you were looking for. Any chance of the horseshoe guys for the ladies' haircuts? Oh, Michelle, you do like making me work hard. Yes, of course I can. Yes, I will. I will work on them today, this afternoon, or tomorrow, and I'll get them put up on the Passion for Hair stylist hotline if that's okay. And yes, Gary, let me get that blow dried, and then I'll stick that up onto the Passion for Hair stylist hotline at the same time as the head sheets. So thank you very, very much. I hope you've enjoyed and I hope you've learned something. Elevate yourselves. I'm a fashion designer, and I'm a famous fashion designer because I'm on a webinar. All right, lovely. Thank you very, very much, guys. Over and out.